Can you hold it? Welcome, everybody. It's Donnell McAdams, Westerly Design Educator, and Megan is here with me. We're happy to be back tonight. We've missed you guys. We are getting ready for spring. Everything is kind of starting to come up, so we decided tonight we would do a spring into spring table mat. Now, for some of you, this is going to be just a little bit out of your comfort zone because I did some really mishmash. I used 16 different fabrics, and you don't have to do that. If you got the handout off of the Sew Steady site, you will see that you're going to need 16 8.5-inch fabric squares and 16 7 by 7. And you could do those in like maybe 4 instead of 16, you know, whatever you want to do. You'll see my fabrics here in a few minutes. So on this, it says 16 7 by 7 squares of Templey fuse. You might want to make a note there, mark that off, because I actually ended up using a 13.5-inch square on the whole thing. This did not really make sense here, so you need 4 13.5-inch squares of Templey fuse or Heat and Bond Light. Remember, Templey fuse is the new fusible that's available through Sew Steady, and it can be used for the template quilting, or we can use it like tonight. We're going to be making circles, and we're going to fuse it on the back for that. So again, this third one down, you might just want to mark that out and say 4 13.5-inch squares. All right, the backing fabric, 36 by 36, the batting, and then your binding. Now, I'll probably do my quick, easy mitered binding technique. That 36 by 36 should leave me enough space to bring that from the back to the front. So that's the requirements of what we're going to do tonight. The other things that we have over here are just what we're going to be using. I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, I think. I am going to use the Spinifex 4 collection to do my quilting with this. And you have a Spinifex 4 in your sampler set, but this is the whole set of those. So I'm going to be using those for tonight. So do we have, oh, should I turn it this way? Okay. So do we have any questions at this point? And then I'm going to show you my fabrics.
No questions yet. They're just excited to be back for the party.
Okay, so I do want to take a few minutes before I start because I know some of you guys are in my From Beginner to Quilt class. You're going to hear this again on Monday because I'm going to tell it again, but I want to take just a bit of time because I'm finding that some of the problems people are having are simply knowing what threads to use when they're doing their quilting. So I want to do just a little bit. I pulled some threads out here. So I'm going to sit this down and we're going to talk just a little bit about threads and what you should look for and what you should stay away from and whatever. Because I've been helping people in the last couple of weeks get set up. And I don't even know if the ones I've talked to this week are on with us today, but they can either give us a thumbs up or a heart when I identify their situation, because basically we had their machine all set up and they were still having issues. And I said, look, here's what the deal is. The next couple of days I'm going to be traveling. I can talk from morning till night because I'm not the one driving. Most of the time I wasn't. And I said, you can get this thread and then get back with me. And honestly, both of them contacted me back and said, once I changed the thread, everything was fine. And here's the reason why. Because I mentioned to use polyester thread, and I do like polyester thread because it seems to be, one that we don't have as much problem with when we start as beginners. But what ended up happening is when they went to get polyester thread, they ended up with a decorative thread that you would use in embroidery. Now, it's definitely a great thread for its intended purpose. It's definitely 100% polyester. This one happens to be a Floriani. It could have been an RNA thread, a Robeson Anton. It could have been sulky. There's all different threads that you could have gotten, but this is not a good thread for what we're doing right now. Now, yes, you can quilt with it, but when you're first getting started and when you're doing some of the things we're doing, this is not for that. Now, I'm going to use some threads just like this tonight because I'm going to be doing some decorative stitches, but that's with my circle sewing. It's not going to be with when I start doing my template quilting. So when I say polyester threads, I'm not referencing those. I'm looking more at, let's see, over here, this is a polyester thread right here. This is a Gutermann thread. It's 100% polyester. You can probably see it right there, 100% polyester. It doesn't feel anything like this particular thread right here. So that's why I want you to understand the difference, and it can be, a total different feel. This one is definitely one of the good ones for doing your template quilting, and I've got some others here. This one is an RNA thread. This is 100% rayon. It's not a polyester, I shouldn't say. This is a rayon, and the thing with it is not nearly as strong as the polyester, so it's going to be even less likely to be one that I would use for template quilting, especially when I'm just getting started. So I'm going to put that one aside. Be perfect for when I do my decorative stitching, but not for this. And another one that I mentioned that makes a good one is this one that I ended up picking up at Hobby Lobby. It's called Sewology, and this one is 100% polyester. You can see it right there on there. Now, I will tell you, if the information for your thread is on the end and you end up breaking that through there, I would certainly keep a fine point Sharpie so that I could write on whatever's left or write on here. If it's not on there like this, you want something so that 3 weeks from now, when you've totally forgotten what it was, you can see what it is. Now, if you have big spools like this and they don't have it on the inside, I think you can probably, can they see that, Megan? This has got all the information on the inside. It had it on the outside also, but that's going to be taken off and it's going to be gone. So thank goodness it's on the inside. Now these are both the same. This is called Omni Thread from Superior, and it flat out says on here recommended long arm. Okay, and what that is it's the recommended long arm needle, so we know that this is one that we can use for our quilting. And this one is a poly wrapped poly core thread. It is a 40 weight, And all of that information is on the inside also. I dearly love these. There's 6,000 yards on it. So I have these in a bunch of fun colors because I know that they work great. I'm telling you, I've had no problem with them. Now this is another one. This is a glide thread. Now this is 100% polyester also. And one of my people was using this week and had issues with it. Now this is designed to be used on long arm machines and for this, and that's fine and it works good, but you kind of have to have the hang of what you're doing first. And some of us are still a little jerky in our movements, and that causes you to have issues. So when you're getting everything set up, I just remind you to use either something like this Gutermann 100% polyester, this Sewology that I got at Hobby Lobby. This is another one of the Sewologies right here, and this one is 100% Pima cotton, and this is a 50 weight. It's a little lighter weight thread, but it can be also used for that. And then this is also the 50 weight. Now right beside this, they had a 50 weight with a /3. You'll notice this is a 50 weight /2. And that /3 on the weight was actually a 30 weight. So I put it back because that can create some pretty big some pretty thick stitches because it's a heavier weight thread. So I decided I didn't want to use that one on my project. And then this one more here is from that well actually that's the same as this other one, just a different size spool. So this is a Sewology. It is a 40 weight, let me see here, 100% polyester all purpose, and it doesn't say it, so my assumption is it's a 40 weight because that's usually the way it is. And then there's another one that's called Masterpiece. And Masterpiece is by Superior Threads, and this is a 2,500 yards, and this one is a 3-ply extra long staple Egyptian grown cotton. And this is another one that is a good one to use on there. And so you'll notice again, right on the spool, it's hooked in there, but if not, I would have saved this piece and stuffed it up in the inside there so I would know what it was. So that just gives you kind of an overview of threads. You can see we've got a little bit of everything here. And this is kind of nice thing that we have available. And you can find it probably in your local quilt shop. It's brand new. It's this kind of sticky tape. It comes in different colors. Mine's still boxed up because I haven't unboxed everything from my trip. And this just stretches around there. So if you have a spool like this one that doesn't have any way for it to be secured, like these spools right here, you can just put it in the bottom and it just stays in there. But if you have some spools like this, you can just wrap that around there so you don't have thread going everywhere. So Megan, did that charge any questions there?
I don't think we've got any questions yet, but they really love all of this. I do have one now from Jeannie. Do you ever use Isacord thread, 40 weight?
Yes, the Isacord thread is fine. I don't remember whether I think that's a polyester thread, if I remember correctly. So it just depends, give it a try. If you're having trouble with it, just get another thing to use, because that's what happened in several of the cases this week. I just said, go get some of this thread and this thread. And, it's amazing because then what the notes I got back were, I won't be needing to talk to you because I got it fixed. That thread made all the difference. And of course, then you kind of sit back and you go, but why did it make a difference? You know what? Sometimes we just can't answer the whys. It's just because we know.
What's that sticky tape again? Julie wants to know. What's its name?
I can't remember what the name of it is, and like I said, it's still packed in my suitcase, but it comes in 3 colors. I think it's red, blue, and something maybe yellow in one package that's this width, and then there's another package that's two different colors, and it's in a wider width.
And is this the same stuff as like they can find at the animal farm stores?
Yep,
and whatever?
that's exactly the same kind of stuff, except now they have packaged it for quilters, so it's in a smaller quantity. And the thing is, the reason they have the 3 different colors there is like you could put all your regular, all-purpose threads one color. You could put all your decorative threads another color. And so that was, I didn't pay attention to that. I just put whatever color I want on it because I separate my threads in the cabinet or the containers by the different weights that I want. So, all right, I hope that's helped you out a little bit there as to what we are dealing with thread-wise. There's never enough information on thread, I will tell you that. And as I was teaching last week, one of the ladies asked me a question, and I said, you know what, I could spend the whole hour and a half talking about just that question right there, because there's so much to learn with threads, the compatibility of threads. And I know a lot of you have been told, so like if this is my spool here, you have been told that it has to come off on the bottom when you put it on your machine. I don't really think that makes a whole lot of difference. So, it's one of those things that, it's got started and everybody said it. And so, it's one of those situations. But I have used them both ways and I've not had any issues. Now, I will tell you that, and Megan, I don't know if we can flip up over to see this right here. This machine I'm sewing on is my M7. And so on the M7 and a lot of machines now, we have what we call an antenna. And this is a place where our thread gets put on to the spool pin back here and then threaded up through this and threaded over. And that eliminates a lot of problems. Now, if you want to swing back over, if you don't have one of those, this is what you can get. And this is just called an auxiliary spool pin. And so right up here at the top, there's a place for the thread to go under. And right down here, there's a place for your thread to sit on it. And so this is taller than your sewing machine at the top. So you would just be bringing that thread up, putting it through there, and threading your machine as normal. And I will tell you, that will eliminate a ton of problems, not even just in quilting, but in embroidery also. And so anytime you're dealing with, thread acting funky or whatever, if you have one of these, I would just keep it out and use it all the time. Now, the key to this is get the ones that are metal. You can hear that ting, ting, ting there. This is one of the ones that are metal. I don't think they're much more than $15, to be honest with you. And the advantage of metal is that it's heavy and it's not going to fall over. I had one that was plastic, and every time I ended up, it was like this because it just wasn't heavy enough to stay up. So these are called auxiliary spool pins or cone holders. They go by several different names, but it's a great thing to have if you don't have one of these antennas on your machine. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. I'm going to show them my fabrics first, so give me all of those fun.
As you're doing that, can they get that auxiliary spool from you?
Yes. I might have to match these back up again because I've dropped them. So this is part of what I've already done, okay? So this is 4 of the 7 by 7 inch squares. And so I have stitched them together, made sure that my seams were pressed good and flat because I pieced them with a 50 weight thread, a 60 weight thread, because I want this seam good and flat. So these are 4 pieces pieced together. And then on the back, I have already fused my heat and bond. Okay, so the heat and bond is on the back, either the heat and bond or the Template fuse, okay? And so then this is 4 of the 8.5 by 8.5 inch pieces. And so what we did is, and I told you, some of you aren't going to be able to handle this because it's just too much, too fast, but I think it's going to really be pretty when it's finished. What we are going to be doing is I am going to peel off that heat and bond, and we are going to be putting this on here so that it's offset, and we're going to match up our center, and we're going to sew a circle here and cut that extra off. So when we're finished with this, we will have a piece on top of this, but this piece is then going to be a circle. We're going to do that 4 different times, and then we're going to do some decorative stitching around it. Well, actually, we'll probably do one and do decorative stitching and then trade out. And we are going to do that to 4 different pieces. So here's another piece that's already got its backing on it. I don't know what piece goes together now, but this was here. And I'm just going to hand them to Megan and let her go put them back together because they got dropped and I don't know which pieces go together. So we're going to work on this one while she's over there taking that apart. I'm going to peel this back. Got to find a corner that I can get it going on.
I have a couple thread questions. Can we go back to that while you're peeling?
Yes, ma'am.
Nancy wants to know, King Tut 40 weight 3-ply. Is that good for machine quilting?
I think it should be. Megan, you're going to have to go touch the irons to my corners there. They don't seem to want to behave.
And then, do you ever use Madeira thread?
I do, and you know, I've had a lot of cone threads from Madeira. So this is one of my cone threads. I just didn't even pull it off over here because I've got this in about 12 different colors too. And this is the Madeira 100% polyester 40 weight. And these come on 3,000 yard cones. So yes, definitely the Madeira. I buy them on the cones like that. I also have some Madeira that looks like it's variegated. And this is called Arrow Quilt, and that's what the other one's name is also. So these are the 40 weights. They do a great job. You can see down here it's called Arrow Lock right down there in the bottom.
Ray wants to know, do you ever press your seams open to reduce the bulk?
I do not, because that weakens the seam. And I have not had any issues since I've started piecing with 60 weight thread. So everything just goes right nice over that. We are going to need our circle sewing tool that's going to work with the holes here. Now, if you don't have a circle sewing tool, you can get, oh boy, it's a good thing I do because that's still packed up also. You can get the Circles and Straights tool, which is a mat. It's on the Sew Steady website. The mat goes out here and there's a piece that has a pen like this on it. You've seen me use it many times most likely, but it works just as well. And that way, if you don't have a table with holes, you can go ahead and use that. Now, if it doesn't cling, because it's just like our regular glider mat, which I'll be using here in a little bit, but if it doesn't cling to it because maybe you're out on a laminate table or something like that, just put a couple pieces of tape on either corner and that will be just fine. Now, I just need one of those pieces, whichever one was going for this one. Was that the one I just had you press?
I have no idea. I've pressed about 3 of them now.
Okay, well, give us just a second because I don't want these to end up so that they don't work together. And I'll need one of my Stitch and Ditch. Stitch and Ditch is a stabilizer. You've seen me use it probably if you've seen one of my the Ruler Work 101 classes. Because this is like, pretty much like exam room paper. One side is a matte finish, the other side is a slick finish. You want the matte finish down first. And this can be, you know, used, it's very inexpensive. If you want to use your regular stabilizers, you can use your regular stabilizers. That's not a problem because it's all going to get ripped out. So that's going to go through there. And while I've got it just one layer, I am going to put my piece here right up through the middle of that. Now, if you get it the first time, you're luckier than I am. You can see I didn't. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in those holes, and then I'm just going to come back here. and get it right there in the center. So that's where I want it. I want everything laying flat here. And then you can decide, I've already decided what I'm doing with this. You can decide whether you want to put this offset or if you want it like this. I'm going to do it offset. So how are we doing? Because I've got two here that are the same. Is everything with the others looking okay?
I think so.
All right, so I'm going to put this right here in the center. And I'm going to put my piece right on top of that. Now I'm going to pick this up and move it because I want a smaller circle than that. And obviously I don't even have enough fabric to make it that big of a circle.
So some questions about the butcher paper. Could you use freezer paper or tissue paper instead?
I'm using what's called Stitch and Ditch. And I don't know that tissue paper is going to work, but I suppose you could give it a try. I've not tried freezer paper either, so, you know, it's just a try. Go ahead and give it a shot if you want to do that. So I'm lining this up at the top, and I have to realize that that's as big as my circle can be because of where it's coming around. So like right here on this point, I have to be able to catch that. Okay, so what I need to do is get one of my decorative threads or whatever I'm going to be using. I'm going to start with this one. You want to hand me some of those over there that you picked out so I'll know what they are?
I will. Tell me again for Marjorie, what is the stabilizer that you used?
Stitch and Ditch.
Oh, she can get that on the website, right?
Yes. Or you can use any kind of a lightweight stabilizer. This one just happens to be very inexpensive. And pulls right out. Now, I know you've heard me say it, but whenever you're threading your machine, make sure that your foot is up. And then in this case, on this particular one, I just touch what's called the lock button. And now it puts everything into position for my needle threader to work just perfectly. And so when I'm finished, I take that off. Now all I'm doing now is sewing a straight stitch around here. So I'm just going to start out, kind of pet my fabric as I go. And I think, Megan, my applique scissors are right over on the end of the ironing board there. If you've not done anything with circle sewing, you're really missing out because this is a lot of fun and it's easy. Never mind, they're over here, hon. For those of you that don't know, we were teaching in Lakeland at the OSQE show, teaching ruler work. Glad to meet so many of you while we were down there. And I pretty much packed up my little sewing area and moved it. So it's kind of like getting everything back in place again. And right now what I'm doing is I'm cutting up against with my applique scissors, and I think you can kind of see it there as it comes around. I'm leaving a little bit of fabric, and that's why I use my scissors in this direction, because it helps that to happen. Those of you that have been taking classes, oh my gosh, you're doing so well. I love seeing all of the feathers from Kate's class and the beautiful template work that you're doing from the class that Anne is teaching, and I think Donna's teaching or getting ready to. There's also a class coming up real soon with Kate's teaching the double wedding ring, and it's a unique way of doing it. So if you're interested in classes, just get on Sew Steady's site for Facebook and see what's available, because I will tell you, you guys have been doing great learning that way, and so much fun to see all of the things you're doing. Makes me want to take some of those classes too, because I'm not real good at feathers, so I may just have to take Kate's class. All right, so now you can see what we've got here, okay? So it looks like we've done a lot more work than we actually have, because people think that's a wedge there, a pie shape, when it's really not. And I've put this on here with a light pink thread. And I think I want to do something brighter for actually the decorative stitching. So, yeah, that pink one, Megan, let's do that. So I'm going to do some decorative stitching because I want to cover this up. But then I'm going to come back later after we've layered all this, and I am going to do template work in the middle. So I'm really only going to do one row of the decorative stitch right now, because I think that's all that I really want to do, because I want to leave room for my template quilting. So press that button, lock that down, and pick a decorative stitch. So let me go into my decorative stitches here and see what we've got. All right, I think I'm going to do this one, and what this is going to do is it's going to go over where I have done my straight stitch, and it will actually cover up the straight stitch that I did. And if I were doing this and I wasn't under a time limit, I have a lot of stitches I can do, but for this class I don't want to take a ton of time. But you can see it coming out the back there.
What size circle did you end up making?
That's a great question. I'll just measure it, okay? So it's about 12 and a half. It's not quite 13. So it's about a 12 and a half inch circle. I just went pretty much out to where the edge of my fabric, you can see I didn't cut off a ton. Like right here is where that seam was joined, and that piece was like 13 and a half inches. So I just came in a little bit from that, because now after I do all of this and I put these pieces together, I will have place in here that I can, well, over here, you have to follow my hand because you can't see it. I will have a place over here that I can also do ruler work. So when this is joined together, I'll have a big space there.
So are you going to put these in a square?
You could put them in a long runner. That's a great question. You could put, and I cut what you have in your instructions is for a 4x4 square. So in other words, I'm going to have 2 squares by 2 squares, this being one big square. So it's actually like a 4-patch that makes a bigger 4-patch. But you could also do it in a long runner. So you'd need some more fabric because of the length of it, but you'd need to cut your fabric differently. So right now this piece is probably about 16 and a quarter.
And are we going to get through the entire project today?
We're going to try and do our best. Okay. Yes, we're going to try and do our best. Now, I may not do all of these stitchings this way because I could always go back and do them afterwards. It's just that they would then be stitched through my backing, which I really don't want. So we'll see. So if you guys have questions, go ahead and hit us up, because we're going to be doing this and then I'll take it off, and I've got to do 3 more of them. And that's why I went ahead and pieced all my pieces. Now, I will tell you that when I piece, after I have pressed or after I have pieced it, I press it just like it came off of the sewing machine. In other words, I don't open the seam, I don't fold it one side or the other, and I just press as it came off of the machine. And that's called setting your seam. And then I press it to one side. So I do press to one side. There are a lot of people that are now starting to press open, but with what I'm using with Threadwise, the thread is what makes the bulk. It's not necessarily the fabric. And you could see that went right through the pen there. And that's not only just this one, it's the one underneath there.
Kim wants to know what is in your bobbin. You talked a lot about the thread in the top, but did you mention what thread you use in your bobbin?
Great question. When I am doing this, I have my embroidery bobbin thread. So my embroidery weight bobbin thread, which is just a white thread, is what I have in here. Now, I'm not doing template quilting with that. I am just using that embroidery bobbin weight thread because that's what works great with a decorative stitch. And you can see this one is going fairly quickly. We're almost around here. And it's enough to give us that pretty little lacy look. You can do them all the same, which I think I probably will. Or you could do them all different. And like I said, if you got a bunch of time, you know, we're not trying to hurry this, but I don't want this to take all evening either. If you've got a bunch of time, you can just do some of the more involved decorative stitches that, you know, are really pretty too. But this one really kind of adds a little lacy look. It holds my fabric down. When I'm done with this and I press it, it'll press it to the other piece. And because I put fusible on the back, that's another reason you don't want to use any of the cotton threads that are the ones that you have trouble with breaking, because of the fact I will definitely be using a polyester. And the reason for that is when I'm template quilting, I'm going through that fusible that's on the back, and that tends to abrade or break your thread. In other words, it weakens it down, causes it to shred, whatever. And you'll notice as I've been doing this, I haven't had my hands hardly in the screen here at all because it just goes by itself.
They want to see the stitch close up, so can you hold on to that while I take this off and give them a close up of the stitch?
Now when this is coming back here where it's going to meet, I'm going to be watching it pretty closely because I don't want it to overlap like 3 of those loops. I want it to come hopefully close to what it was, but I'm just going to watch it real close.
Real close. Kind of can get mesmerized in this, can't you?
Yeah. So here we are. We're coming up. We've probably got about maybe 4 or 5 more circles to do. Okay, so I can see that I've got like 1 more there. So what I'm going to do as soon as that 1 more starts, in my case, I'm going to press what's called the stop button. And you can see that it just finishes it off, it knots it, and then all I need to do is cut it. Now, I would not have started this over here in this very plain fabric because that would have really shown. But over here, we've got just a little bit of overlap, but we're in something busy. So this is kind of busy, so you can't really see it. So this one is finished, ready to be joined. And I am going to just peel this back. You can see how this just breaks away here. So this is just going to pull out. And yes, you could save these extra pieces because I put these under when I'm doing buttonholes, and some of you are going, I'm just a quilter. I have no use for a buttonhole, and I totally understand that. So there's the outside piece. And then when I flip this over, I've got this inside piece. And so what I'm going to do there is, again, I could even save that piece by just coming down here to an edge and starting this and just getting it so that I can rip this out around the edge.
So a couple questions as you're ripping. Barbara wants to know, have you fused the circle down to the squares?
Not yet.
So Peggy then wants to know, are you going to do template quilting?
No, I'm not. You could, but no, I'm not. It's a great idea, but I got enough going on in this project without doing that part of it. So this is my back. This here can all be pulled out. I don't worry about the little pieces that are in each of those circles because they're not going to do anything when this is laundered. They will just kind of dissolve, to be honest with you. They're not going to hurt anything, and they're that fine of a papery fabric. Now, you can see what we've got here, and we're going to prepare another one. So if you didn't get it on that time, you'll get it on the next time. So, got two fabrics. Need my piece of stitch and ditch.
I know somebody just asked that again.
And I'm putting the matte side down, the shiny side up. I'm going to get it in the center there. Then I'm going to take the piece that's my background piece that doesn't have anything on the back. And I'm going to bring that in. Put it right in the center. Lay it out flat. And get my piece that had the backing fused on it. And I'm going to put that right in the center.
And because we're not doing template quilting yet, you don't need the glider, right? We've had Jane ask, where's your glider?
I'm not using the glider because I am using my holes in my table. And so I need to be able to get access to those. So is that the way we want to do it, Megan, to keep our greens apart?
Right, that's how I had it.
Okay. So we're going to get this so it's on there so we're straight. And here's what I'm doing is, if I can pull this back, I'm just kind of taking it where this center is.
Hold on.
So that I can get this right straight down the middle there. And so once I've got it, I check two of them. I should be okay. I could change the color of my thread, or I can just be happy with what I've got. And because I was pulling and pushing that fabric, I kind of unthreaded my needle, but that's the beauty of a needle threader. Well, she said. My machine feels slighted. I've been gone for a little while, so. All right. I'm going to go ahead and, again, like I said, I want to start in some place that's a little busier. So I'm going to come right back here to where these flowers are. Well, this wouldn't matter on this because I'm doing straight stitch. But anyway, I'm going to come back and just get my straight stitch. And you can see I come almost right to that edge where the blocks are seamed. Coming up here, you can see it again. My foot just goes right beside that.
And for anyone who doesn't have the table with the holes, they can use the circles and straights.
Circles and straights tool works just the same way. I apologize for not having it here to show you. But if you go on to the Sew Steady site And when you order things, we would really appreciate it if you would use that link that's on the handout. So all you have to do is have that up on your computer and then click on that.
I'll drop the link in the comments as well.
So I'm going to go ahead and cut this thread here. And we are back to where we started.
That quick? Wow.
That quick. And then this is going to get cut. And these are my little 4-inch applique scissors. I kind of use them backwards, but most everybody that does this type of work agrees this is the best way to do it because it doesn't cut your stitching and it leaves you just a little bit of fabric there. And again, you'll notice I'm just leaving this on here and letting it go around in a circle. So I don't have to take it off or anything like that. I can just let this go right around in that circle. Now, if you're one of those people that has everything nice and organized and all of that, I'm just going to tell you, you can keep this in with your scraps that are already fused that you can make something out of for an applique or whatever. I wouldn't know where they were when I got ready for them, so mine are just going to get thrown away. But you can do that because that's already all fused. But I just love the fact that I can just pull that right around. All right, so I've got that around. Whoa! Didn't take my foot off the gas. Coming back around here where I started, because remember I like to start in a place that it's not going to show that much. I'm going to select my decorative stitches. I'm going to use the same one. And we're going to go ahead and let her get started. So, questions? Anything and everything. Doesn't even have to be about this project.
Dolly wants to know, does the iron-on stuff underneath dull your scissors?
It does not dull your scissors, but every now and then you can see even on mine right here, you'll get a little bit of the adhesive. So you just want to take a little bit of alcohol on a Q-tip and rub it on there. Don't do it with a cloth. Well, you can, but if your scissors are nice and sharp, you don't want to cut yourself. So I use a Q-tip and just use a little bit of alcohol on that Q-tip and it'll take that right off of there.
Sharon wants to know, what is the name of the circle table tool again?
Circles and straights. Now, if you have a table that has the holes in it, like this, you see the holes, then you need what's called the circle sewing tool. If you don't have it, it usually comes with the table. But if you don't have a table with holes, then obviously you could buy the wish table and get the holes and everything with it, or you can just go ahead and get the circles and straights tool. And that's something that's been out for a little over a year probably, and they're great. They're just really, really great. There's a yellow mat that has your markings on it, and you can even see a demo of it on the Sew Steady site. So it's on there so that you can see how that's used.
So now what decorative stitch are you using? The same one?
I'm using the same one. If you have an M7, it is decorative stitch D26.
And somebody did ask earlier, because you were talking about threads, does the M7 do embroidery?
No, it does not.
Okay.
I'm using decorative threads that I would use in embroidery, but that I'm using them for a decorative stitch. So no, it does not do. It doesn't do embroidery.
Oh, while we're doing that, can you show your scissors up close? I would like to see what that looks like.
These are my Femore 4-inch little duckbill scissors. I even have another set from Femore that's even smaller than this. But this is what you see. You have a curved area so that the curve sits, I guess I'll put it like that, so that when you're using them, they can just be right around the edge and your fingertips will work. Now the fabric that I'm using is a new fabric line by Eleanor Burns. It's from Benartex, and it is called Rose Whispers. And I'm getting ready to start a block of the month next week that uses this. And we've already, got our kits all cut and everything. And this was some of what was left, and I thought I'm going to use it so I can have something that goes with it, so they'll, have some accessories, so to speak. But anyway, I said a block of the month. We're doing it a block of the week, so we're doing it every week. But the reason I say that is this fabric is so soft, and the colors, we're only using 16 colors, and there's like 30 colors in the whole palette, and they're just really, really pretty. And I think when you go to put fabrics together, obviously you can work out of your stash on this particular project, but like I said, for me it's a stretch because I'm kind of a matchy type person, and so putting these blocks together and just being really, really random, especially even offsetting this, makes it a stretch for some of us. So you can do whatever you want to do. And again, the reason I like to show this circle sewing stuff is because, first of all, it's relatively fast, and it looks like you've really been doing an involved project when you really haven't. And it doesn't take a whole long time to piece 4x4 blocks and then put them together, and in this case offset it. And so what I think I'm going to do with this is I'm going to stop after this one and put it together with the other one, because I can go ahead and put this on my fabric and show you some template, some template quilting, and then I can do join the other one with a seam.
All right, got a couple questions since you've been talking. Bonnie wants to know, how many times do you sharpen your scissors before you send them to scissor heaven?
Well, I happen to be a scissor sharpener, so I know you can sharpen them quite a few times. And I will tell you, the old standard the old standard orange-handled Fiskars, every time I've sharpened those for someone, they have said those are sharper and better than they ever were to begin with. So don't discount them. If they start getting so they're a little bit weak, that doesn't mean that they're ready to be thrown out. Oh, I better be watching. I'm sitting over here getting ready to put stable tape on my templates because that's a brand new set. And this is coming around to where I started.
Another question. Marjorie, is the block of the month ruler work?
It will be when it's all done. We're doing the construction, and then those that want to do ruler work at the end, we will be doing ruler work at the end.
So I'm sure the next question from them will be, where can they find that?
The information would be, send me an email and I'll send you an email back. So you can send me an email if you're wanting to do that. We have like 3 spaces left. So just get it sent off to me and we'll get you taken care of. All right, so I'm ready for that last one. So I'm going ahead and push my bullseye. It's going to do the last one. And you'll notice that it just simply stops on its own. I press the thread cutter and it cuts the thread. And so again, right there's where it joined, and you can see.
They can't see.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay, try again.
Right here's where it joined, and it almost looks like I planned it. And it's just a matter of watching, you know, finding the spot where you're not going to show where you started. So don't come into a, you know, a space like this and do that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull this apart. I'm going to let Megan pull it apart while I go ahead and take this off.
Would you want them that if they have any questions about that block of the month, just to email you?
Yeah, because that's outside of the Sew Steady realm. It's something that I'm doing myself. So I don't really feel right in discussing it here. So you can just send me an email.
On another note, talking about scissors, some of them want to know, can they send them to you to sharpen?
We could work on that. Yeah, we could work on that.
So again, if you have any issues with the sharpening, send an email.
Send an email first so we can make sure that we do the right thing. And let's see here. I need to get my thread. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and work with 2 blocks. And then I don't know if you guys have ever seen some of the Quilt As You Go, is you can do some things and then lay another one on top and join it. And that's actually what I'm going to do. So we are going to just need a straight stitch here to join these 2 blocks. So Megan, I need my other finished block. So when we put these together, we're going to see whether we want to go that way or this way. I think that looks pretty good, right like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this on top, because what I've done is I've just basically embellished the blocks. Now I could switch to my 1/4 inch foot, but I'm only sewing this one seam, so I'm just going to leave this one on here because I know where the 1/4 inch is. And I'm coming down here to where these 2 join, and I want these to nest together. Okay, so I'm going to take a pen and put a straight pin in there because I do want those to be in the right place. And I just take my fingers and pull this back until I can see that under one, so it's lined up there. And I always stop with my needle in the down position. And I'm going to get my stylus, and this is something you can also get from Sew Steady. It's a nice flat stylus. I was testing that. That's not my embroidery weight bobbin thread, although I could have used that. I'm kind of glad it's not because I just stitched that seam. So I don't need to stitch it again because it's okay weight. So now what we need to do is, Megan, I'm going to have you press this, and when I say set it, that means press it like this. And then she's going to flip this back and have that seam pressed to one side. So I'm going to go ahead and get my bobbin wound here because I am going to be doing some template quilting. We're going to show you how we're going to set this up. When you're winding a bobbin, always make sure you get it set up correctly and going in the right direction, because nothing can be a bigger failure than having a mushy bobbin. So while that's going on there, I'm going to go ahead and get my foot changed to my template quilting foot, or my ruler work foot. Another thing that we found as I was trying to resolve people's issues this week was needles. You know, making sure you're using the right needle. And you don't want to piece a quilt with a 90 top stitch needle. So take the time to change that needle, because if you're piecing with the recommended, like I mentioned, the 60 weight, that should be a size 80 or maybe even a 75 needle. And I realize a lot of people, you know, don't like to mess around with changing needles, but it does make a big difference in your stitching and what the hole looks like and all of that. Now, when I talk about a glider, and somebody, you know, mentioned I didn't have mine on, this is my glider. And the yellow mat that comes with the Circles and Straights tool is just like this, only it's only about half the size. It's long this way, but it's not as wide this way.
And for those that want to know, why do you use a glider? Because I know you had that as a question a lot this week as well.
Okay, a glider is something that covers up all of the joins, even though my table is custom cut and it fits right up around here. There's a join here all the way around. And it's so much easier to do my template quilting with that glider on there. And I will tell you, now and then, you want to polish your glider with the polishing the polish that comes with the for So Steady. It's called acrylic insert and table polish, or table and insert polish. Okay, and then you just use that on a little cloth that comes with it, and it just makes your mat just so much smoother. And it just, after a while, it just, you know, they come pre-polished, but after a while you need to polish it again. All right, so I always like to have my thread down underneath there. And so Megan and I are going to go over here to the cutting table, and we're going to put this on. So
you take this, I'll get them over there. We're going on a trip, guys. You want me over on this side?
You're fine.
Okay.
So what I'm doing here is, you would want to have had all 4 of those squares together, okay? But I don't want you to wait on me, and I really can't get that all done any faster than I'm doing it. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to get this all set up so I can show you some ruler work. And then I'll do the other 2, and I will simply lay that on here and stitch through all of this and lay it back over that way. So I just want to make sure I've got enough room here all the way around to have my other piece. So I'm going to measure here to see what I have. So that's 16. Oh yeah, I'm good. So what I'm going to do, so that you can see how I would spray this, first of all, I'm going to put on my mask. Not hard to find one of those now. And the one that I like to use is called Quilt Basting Spray by June Taylor. So what I'm going to do is I am going to do this one first. And that's all I really need to hold that in place.
Now I do know if you had this pieced all together as 4, you would have a second pair of hands. If I wasn't here, you're holding the iPad, you'd have somebody on the other end, right?
Correct.
So the bigger your projects, the more hands you might need to help with this.
And you can do it by yourself, but it's just always easier to have a second set of hands. Now, if you're not following what I'm talking about, we're going to go ahead and do some decorative or some template quilting in here. And then we will have the other two, and I'll just seam it right through everything. So on the back, there's going to be a seam. So now at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this up. And I'm going to lay this back down. So this end is all finished. I'm pulling this just closer to me so I can pull this back.
Nanine says in Sweden they use a powder glue. Have you ever tried that?
You can use what's called free fuse. That is from Alex Anderson's Quilter Select. And it comes in like a little salt shaker. Again, I have used it. It's packed up. I do recommend it. You know, in this case, this does not have a ton of overspray. It actually has none. There's nothing out here. And it doesn't have any kind of odor that is, you know, going to get us in trouble.
And I think it was Margie that asked, so that basting spray does not affect the heat and bond?
No. So I'm going to pull this up like this, and we're going to go back over to the machine.
Marjorie, you're asking if she's got batting. She does have batting on there. I think that's what you're asking. I don't know if you're asking if she's selling it.
There's batting here. Yeah. Yeah, I like to use Quilter's Select, or excuse me, Quilter's Dream batting. Got to get all my terms together there. Now, I need to set my machine for ruler work, so let me get that set. It's very easy on this one. It's 4 pushes of a button and pretty much ready to go. Now, this is where I like to use my, they're actually Wonder Clips, but they look like alligators. And so this is going to be so that this keeps this whole end down here out of my way. All right. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to get our crosshair square. I'm going to use the 8-point because I got 4 circles here. And I'm going to set this on here, and you can see I won't have to make 4 of the lines because they're right on there. All I need to make are the others. And I sprayed these with my Best Press. Actually, I use Starch Savvy. So I've already sprayed them so that they will come right off the lines and marks, and they are not in the fabric. So let's go ahead and push this to the back. And let me explain that again. Whenever I use my Frix-On markers, I spray this with 2 layers of Best Press. In other words, I put Best Press on it, press it, put Best Press again, and press it. And I did all of that because I wouldn't want to do it now because I'm really not ready to fuse down my, I could fuse the fusible, that's not a problem, but I don't really need to at this point. So I'm getting that center line lined up here, 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 and there, because I can use these as the other ones. Now, I'm going to take my set of templates here, and I'm going to show you. I have not done anything, they just are brand new templates. And you can see how big this is going to go. So I can pretty much fill this whole inside. So what I'm going to do is this, like I said, I haven't prepared these at all yet. They come with the stable tape. And I'm just going to take this. And you guys, do me a favor and use the products that we recommend. If you expect the same types of results, you need to use those products. I I saw some questions the other day. I don't even know, it could have been today, regarding stable tape. Somebody asked what it was, and then somebody else answered in a way that does not promote these products. These are the ones that we have found work the best, give you the right height, and you know, it's just this stable tape is why we promote it. It works. And I know, you know, someone has all different kinds of things that they can talk about, but you know, it is what it is. And if you want to do something and have the same results, you got to use the same types of products. And I will tell you the one that ended up getting mentioned on there too, and I'm just going to say what it is because I've tried it and it's awful. It will mess up your templates faster than you can imagine. And it's called Grippy, and it's a spray-on, and it leaves a very much foggy look. You can't even see your etched lines to match them up. I had to literally give the 2 templates that I put those that stuff on, I had to give them a bath that I was afraid was actually going to ruin everything on it because that Grippy was so foggy I could see nothing. So anyway, just a little hint, just a little encouragement to use the products as we intend them.
So some questions. Since you are not going to be cutting out the fabric for Temply, why did you need the heat and bond under that first layer?
Because I want that circle to adhere. You could do it without, but I want it to adhere. So out here on this edge, all the way around, I want it to adhere. And I can honestly tell you, if I hadn't had that heat and bond, even though I've not fused it, this would have not laid as flat because this is all bias around there. And it just would not have laid as flat.
Beth wants to know, what size needle are you using for ruler work?
For ruler work, I use a 90 top stitch. On my Janome, a 90 top stitch is a purple tip. And what that means is the top part of the shank is purple in color. And so we just say a purple tip Janome needle on this one, but it is actually a 90 top stitch. All right, look at that. I had 3 strips and I need just a little bit more. So that's why I always keep some extra stable tape right here in my front little drawer. So I'm going to throw that up there, make sure I'm on the back. And any more questions you guys have, and then we're going to be ready to do some quilting. All right.
Oh, here's one more that Stephanie asks. She has the wish table on order. Does the polish come with a table?
It does not. It's something that you would want to get, and you'll need to get it separately. Now, sometimes they have specials, and that's included, but I don't believe it's included right now. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to about the 3rd size, and we're going to start with that. And I'm going to come right here to the center and put my needle down, pull up my thread, floss that underneath there, and get my tweezers to get that through. I don't think this is going to be dark enough to show up, Megan. Let's have that other thread.
You want this dark?
Yes. And I'm going to try, actually I'm going to use this one.
Okay.
I just think it needs to be a little bit darker.
What size is that one?
This is a 40 weight.
No, I'm sorry. The
the size of the template?
Yes.
I'll tell you in a second here. Forgot what I was doing. All right, so I've got my bobbin thread, and since the bobbin thread, even though it's a lighter color, it's the same weight, same brand, same weight, just a lighter color. And if you're like me, when you go to put this through, it seems like it's difficult, stick it through there and just pull your fabric to the side. And because it's hanging on to the fabric, you'll get it right through there. This is a 7.5. This is the 7.5.
So another question before you get started. Ginger wants to know, what is your tension set for ruler work?
In this case, I have not needed to change my tension at all.
Okay.
I've not needed to change it. It appears we have a visitor who is getting into the scene here. We're going to have to move him. Boo Boo, say hi to the ladies and move on. There we go.
He just missed Mommy.
So I'm going to line this up here. I'm lining it up in the back. Now, the only place that was just a smidge difficult to move was right there in the center. Everything else was just easy as they come. And so what I'm going to do is I am going to raise my foot just a little bit. On my foot, the raise is by a setting on the machine. And I'm going to come around. Oh, that's much easier. You can kind of hear it when it gets back to that center. And when we're doing these templates like this, we like to do like the 4 basic and then go in between there, because that gets your fabric all settled in. And got to get my thread out of the way here. And at this point, because that center is going to be crossed so many times, I really probably could just cut it off, but I want to show you how to secure that thread. So I've got all 4 of those done. So I'm going to come into between here, and remember, all I have to do is line it up on my seam, because of the fact that I didn't even need to draw it, because it's basically already there for me. And I'm going to go this direction. Get my threads out of the way. And I've got one more of this size. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this gate.
Are you going to do a bigger size or smaller?
Yes, I'm going to do a bigger size.
Ooh.
So I'm going to take this template out.
Which that would be fun if you did the bigger one and then you want to do the template.
Oh, sure, you could do it in any order you want. Now, is that the biggest one there? I don't think it is. I thought I laid it over here. Yeah.
Oh, so you had a really big one.
Ginormous one. So I'm opening up that gate.
And so this one that you just used was a 7.5. What's the one you're using
The one
now?
I'm using now is 11.5.
Big jump.
So, and that is the whole circle. So the 7.5 is measured from here across to the outer on the other side. So I'm going to go to the back first and line that up. And I am going to cut those threads out of my way right there because they're starting to get mixed in with everything. And they've been stitched over multiple times, so they're not going to hurt anything. Turn this around this direction, and I'm lining up right down here. It'll come into play here in just a second for you. And I'm going to turn this. And you can decide what you want to do. I can do all 8 of these. I could do just 4. I could do the other 4 a different size. I can come back and add more. Let's see, where am I going? There I've done. I'm coming around here. One, two, three, 4. Got those done.
Dee Dee wants to know, do you have a stitch regulator on your Janome?
No, I do not. No stitch regulator. I set my machine to a medium speed and turn my foot pedal around on the floor to the back, and then I simply floor it each time. And that helps me to get more smooth, even stitches. You know, as I'm doing this, Megan, I think that strand of pearls would look cool around this. You want to see if in that top box there is my strand of pearls. Don't think it's there? Okay, then I'm going to use, so this is the end of this one, you guys, and you can either bring up your bobbin thread and secure it, or I'm just kind of going side to side in the center, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut that and give my extra lift on my foot so I can get my template out. And you can see here what I have. So strand of pearls only goes up to 11.5, so it won't go outside there. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do our circles on quilts. So I'm going to bring me my big bag over there. It must be in there. While I'm looking, Megan, you can see if you got any more questions.
Do you mind if I show them what your foot pedal turned around looks like? They want to know what that looks like.
It's pretty nasty down there, but if you want to.
It's messy, guys, but if you want to see it, it's just literally turned around.
So what we're going to use, this is our circles on quilts. Now this is the standard set here of 4 pieces, and it starts in the middle and then can go around that way. Now these are not big enough, but then we have the extensions, the ones that are longer. So what I'm going to be doing is, I'm not going to try and put my thumbtack up through the middle there. I'm going to take my thumbtack, I've put it through a piece of the R&K tape. I'm putting it on my fabric, and I'm making sure that I've got it dead center, and I don't. And that tape is about out, so let me get another piece of tape. And this is just simply the thumbtack. This is my R&K tape. And I'm going to cut off a piece. I like to have a good square end there. So I'm going to cut off a piece that's about 1.5 inches long. It won't matter on this because I'm going to be sewing clear outside here. But what I'm going to do is eliminate that hassle of trying to get it up through all of that. So let's see what we got now. I got it straight this way, but let's see what this way looks like. Nope. All right, there we go. Now, I have 4 of these, and I'm going to set one here on the center, and that one is too small and too big. Let's see what we got here. Coming out. That one looks really good. That's the 13.5. So I'm going to do a circle with that particular one. So I've got it on the center here. Megan, we're going to have to clean up our area here. There we go. And I like to stitch from the outside to the inside. So I'm going to flip mine over. You'll notice there's no stable tape on it. You really don't need any. I'm going to put it down, and when I do this circle, I am going to put the foot and bear it against this inside. It doesn't matter which side I go. I like to do the one on the inside. It just makes it easier for me. And so I'm going to turn this so I can see where I'm at, put my needle down, my needle up, and get my thread up.
And you said that the one you're using now is part of the extension set, correct?
Right.
What, we had somebody ask, is there a number for that?
For the set, I really don't know, but when you go and look online, you'll see that there's the regular set and then there's these. These go out to, I want to say 18 inches if you want to look on there. I think that's what it is. Yes. They go out to 18 inches. And so that way it makes it so much easier to do the larger circles like I'm doing right now. So I stop with my needle down. I move this because it's pivoting on the center back here, which I know you can't see in the screen right now. But this is going to allow me to make a perfect circle around.
Now, if they don't have this, they could go and do another circles on quill to use their tool for that,
It
right?
doesn't work as well because it won't move all of this fabric. It's just way too much fabric for it to move. That's why I do things in smaller pieces like the blocks that we did, and then put this part together because it won't move all of that fabric. But you can see why I like to do it so I don't fall off the edge. Other people use this and they've stitched from the inside out, and I feel like I fall right outside of that. So this way keeps me from falling outside.
And I know we've had this question before. When you're doing this, you can only do a straight stitch. You're not going to want to do...
Oh no, you can't do anything else. No, this is ruler work here, so... And what I will do is I will go to a different size. I'm not going to just do one line here. I'm going to go to a different size. So we'll be creating some little ridges around there. But here's where I started. And I definitely want to end up right back where I was, which I did. And so what I'm going to do at this point is I am going to take my thread up, my foot up, and I'm going to pull away and come back and put my needle down in that same spot, and then I'll show you how I bury that thread if you've not seen that before, and then I'll make another line here. So I'm going to pull this up. This is my bobbin thread coming up here. I'm going to cut that. I'm going to cut the thread coming from my needle. And then I have these 4 threads here. I'm just taking this thread, pulling it around to make an open loop, and pulling those threads through. Now don't pull them down yet. You want to get your cinch needle. And the cinch needles are the side threading needles or the top threading needles. This is the ones I like to use. They have a side threader, but I'm just using the point right now and put it right back in where I started, pulling that down, and you can see that knot right there. I'm pretty sure you can see that. And I'm going to just take these threads and put all 4 of them right in there and go right back to that very spot and bury my threads in between my layers. Now I like to check to make sure I didn't come out the back, which I didn't. I'm pulling this through, and I'm going to slowly pull the tails through. You can still see the knot until I pull it, and then that knot pops right in there. So now we can't tell where we started. We've buried the tails. There's nothing sticking up there like the knot, and we're ready to do another row. Now I want to do it so it's 1/4 inch apart. So this says 13.5, so I want the one that says 14. Okay, so I'm going to take this and set it on here, and here's my 14.
Now Karen has a question that will help with this. Could you push the template with the foot and just keep going around and around?
It doesn't work very well this way. It works great like that on a long arm. So yes, the long armers can do that way. But on this, I've tried it, and it doesn't really work that well. It kind of, you can't get as good a stitching is the best way to say it. All right, so I've got my needle down. I've got my thread out here. So here we go again. Always stop with the needle down to hold your place. And remember, I'm pushing my foot against the inside of that template. And I will tell you, I was scared to death of these particular rulers, the circles on quilts, until after someone sat down and showed me what I'm showing you about the ins and outs so that you don't fall off, for one thing, and you know to stop and recollect here so that we don't end up getting a big gap in our stitching. Now what I plan to do after I join the other one on here is I am going to use some smaller of these in my sections down here. So I think what I'll do is I will wait until next week and we'll finish this project, and that way you'll see what my intentions were with it. You can go ahead and do one if you want, and you can be, you know, up to this point, whatever. Because I know that we need to have it pieced together in order to do that, but I'll show you what my intentions were, just so if you want to go ahead, so that you'll have yours done and on the table for Easter. The rest of you might get it done too, but uh-oh, I cut my top thread, and that's okay, except I need the bobbin thread. So let's see if I can pull it up. Oh yeah, I think I can. And if not, I'll just get my needle and pull it up. So it looks like my needle it is. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to thread that needle. I'm going to take this to the top. So I've got all 4 of my threads. Make my loop. Put that right in the spot that I want this knot to come down to. And you don't want the knot right exactly at the base of your fabric here. You want a little bit of a space so that when you put this back in to bury it, you've got some give to pull it into the fabric so it's not with the knot resting right on. Look, that knot already went in. That's faster than I could do it. All right, and so then we've got 2 rows around there. I am going to do one. Let me see, this my batting. Yeah, I'm going to do 1 1/2 inch. And I'm going to tell you what my intentions are here. Is when I get this joined over here, there will be a big open spot in here that we can repeat this, that is probably going to show up even more. So if you wanted to go ahead and do that, you know, do a design in here, it could be with these same templates that we did here, or you could do a different template in this area, but I have to have my other one joined to it before I can do that.
So that's what you're going to do next week.
Right. So as we finish here today, I'm just simply going to be doing another circle. So let me see here to get it in place. And I need the one, Megan, that is at, I believe, 15 or 15 and a half. Let me see what we got. $15 and a half. I'm going to try that. I want to leave enough so that when I'm finished, that it'll be right where my binding comes around, and I only need 1/4 inch in the way that I'm going to be doing that, so that would be right there. So I think I will go ahead and go back to the 15, Megan. Okay, so as we start the music and start to sign off, before Megan starts that, is there anybody that has any questions? We will finish next week, or if you feel really ready to go, you can go ahead and finish yours.
So Susan says next week is Easter weekend. We're still going to have a live, and
Oh,
yes, we
yeah,
are.
We sure are. Okay, so I'm going to put my needle down, and I'm going around. And until next week, have a great week. Stay safe and healthy. Inspire someone to quilt.